Hello, I'm David Harper with the BBC News. The US Coast Guard says a catastrophic implosion killed all 5 people who went missing on a dive to the wreck of the Titanic. The discovery of debris from the submersible deep in the Atlantic Ocean marks the end of a huge rescue operation. The BBC's Sumi Somaskanda is following the details from the Operations Centre in Boston.
Now the search and rescue turns into a search and recovery as authorities attempt to investigate what led up to this tragedy. Rear Admiral John Mauger confirmed that 5 parts of the vessel were found approximately 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic wreck. Among the pieces of the Titan discovered at the site were a nose cone outside the pressure hull and a larger debris field. Admiral Mauger noted the noises detected Wednesday did not appear to have any connection to the sub.
The director of the film Titanic, James Cameron, has told the BBC he felt in his bones that the missing submersible had imploded as soon as he heard that communications had been lost. The filmmaker has visited the wreck of the Titanic many times in the past.
I got reports that various acoustic networks that are in operation around the Atlantic had heard a very loud implosive event at that time. So this entire week has just felt like a prolonged nightmarish charade. I knew that sub was sitting exactly underneath its last known depth and position. That's exactly where they found it.
The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken warmly of closer relations with the United States during a speech to the joint houses of Congress. He said the scope of cooperation between the two countries was endless. Samira Hussain reports from Washington.
The red carpet was rolled out for Narendra Modi on his first official state visit to Washington, which included a lavish ceremony at the White House, complete with a 21-gun salute. President Biden extolled the relationship between the two countries, but the visit has faced criticism from members of Mr. Biden's own party. They claimed the current Indian government had a long history of human rights abuses and anti-democratic policies, a suggestion strongly denied by Mr. Modi when questioned by American journalists. The Biden administration is keen to strengthen relations between the U.S. and India, which it sees as a counterbalance to China's rising might in the region.
An air raid alert has been issued for the whole of Ukraine. Sirens sounded in the early hours of Friday, with a military warning of possible Russian missile and drone attacks in numerous areas. There have been reports of explosions in the city of Zaporizhia. On Thursday, one of the few bridges linking the Russian-occupied Crimea Peninsula to the Ukraine mainland was badly damaged by an explosion. Russian-appointed officials alleged that Ukraine had used a British-supplied missile in the attack. Live from London, this is David Harper, and you're listening to the latest world news from the BBC. The Brazilian president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, has said that developed countries must help finance the preservation of the Amazon rainforest and other vulnerable areas. He insists his government will reverse environmental damage caused by the former president, Jair Bolsonaro. Leonardo Rocha reports.
Speaking to thousands of people at an event in Paris, Mr. Lula da Silva said the world's richest countries owed a debt for the environmental damage of the past 2 centuries. He said they would need to share the cost of protecting the environment with Brazil and other developing nations. Mr. Lula da Silva reaffirmed his plans to end illegal deforestation in Brazil's Amazon region by 2030 as part of a global strategy to tackle climate change. But environmentalists have criticized some of his policies, including recent tax cuts on the purchase of new cars and trucks, which are aimed at boosting the country's troubled economy.
A county in the US state of Oregon has become the latest to launch a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit against major oil and coal companies over climate change. Multnomah County, which includes the city of Portland, is seeking over $50 billion in damages. It argues that energy companies such as Exxon and Chevron have deceived the public about the harmful impact of fossil fuel for decades. The authorities in Libya have detained 50 Chinese nationals following a raid on an illegal cryptocurrency operation. Photos published by the Tripoli prosecutor show large, windowless rooms crammed with hardware and computers. On Wednesday, 10 other Chinese people were taken into custody for crypto mining in the port city of Misrata. The president of European football's governing body, UEFA, has admitted there were problems for fans at this month's Champions League final in Istanbul. Alexander Ceferin said everything wasn't perfect. It's the first time he's responded to criticism by supporters of Manchester City and Inter Milan. Some described having to spend hours queuing for transport and being left with no water. BBC News.